Inflation came in better than expected, so why is the Fed talking so tough? Let's talk inflation doubleheader today on the weekly update. Okay, friends, let's talk about the inflation doubleheader that we had today. A good CPI and a tough talking Fed. Here's what you need to know. CPI brought with it this morning unambiguous good news, and the Fed is talking really tough on inflation, which both of these I think are welcome developments. So let's take CPI first here. This is the way we've been looking at CPI. Again, remember, this is sort of like the inflation gauge for the market. Blue here is all items. Red line is excluding the more volatile food and energy. And what we got a goose egg for May's inflation reading, 0.0. And what this has done is this has brought inflation on both headline CPI or a core CPI basis to 3.3 to 3.4% year over year. This is not anywhere near the Fed's 2% target, but we're getting there. It's forward progress. And certainly, if you remember, the last several months, we've been talking about a secondary inflation wave and sort of inflation heating up. So this was a welcome development. Then also this afternoon, we had the Fed announcement. Fed left rates where they were. They did not deliver a cut. And what was interesting was some of the commentary that came with the Fed's announcement. Here's Jay Powell. Inflation is still too high. Agreed. Inflation has eased substantially, but still too high. Also agreed. We are maintaining our restrictive stance of policy. Yep, that's higher for longer. That's less interest rate cuts. Inflation has eased substantially, but still too high, sort of repeating himself here. And then finally, and I think this is the important one, because this is something that I've noticed as well, we don't have high confidence in forecasts. And if you'll remember, we've looked at a lot of economic data where I said, yes, this is telling us one thing or the other, but we sort of have to take it with a grain of salt because of how large the revisions have been. The Fed has released their updated dot plot, and the most important thing about this dot plot, the way that you read this is basically you take the average of all of these dots, and this helps determine, where Fed officials think interest rates are going to be for the end of this year, and then as we go further on into 2015, 2020, or 2025, 2026, and then longer term. And basically what the dot plot tells us, Fed officials now expect only one rate cut in 2024. So we're down a whole bunch from 6 or 7 rate cuts, what was anticipated at the start of this year. And also less rate cuts next year as well. And the Fed hasn't moved interest rates for 7 straight meetings. So where are we? We're in a pause. We're in higher for longer. Higher interest rates for longer. Cuts aren't imminent at all. And if you were to look at this dot plot and just sort of say, what is the implied Fed funds target rate? This purple line is where we were the last time the Fed gave us the dot plot. So basically, we were anticipating maybe 3 cuts this year, maybe another 4 cuts next year. This green line is where we are as of today's update, and today's update tells us, well, now we only have 1 rate cut this year and maybe 3 rate cuts next year. But what this means, interest rates are going to be higher for longer, so the Fed is going to need to be restrictive for longer. That's what they're seeing. And I think this is the right way to look at things. We've looked at the secondary inflation wave. We saw economic activity was still pretty robust. So the Fed's going to need to be a little bit tougher here. The question is this going to bring with it more economic weakness? So what does this all mean? Good CPI and a tough Fed? Well, CPI was unambiguously good. That's a welcome improvement. The Fed left rates unchanged today, so no rate cuts on the horizon. And the Fed dot plot indicates that Fed officials are only anticipating 1 rate cut this year and less cuts next year. So the Fed is talking and walking tough right now on inflation. And I think the way that you can read this, the Fed remains in higher for longer mode. And so interest rates are going to stay higher. Rate cuts aren't going to be as quick. And so the only thing that we need to be careful here, because I think all of these things are the right thing to do. If you look at the way the data has been coming in, these are the correct moves. We just need to be careful if this brings too much economic weakness and potentially could tip us over into recession. But at least for today, inflation doubleheader, good news coming on the CPI and good news coming on the Fed front. They're taking the inflation fight seriously. I'll see you this weekend for the markets review. Take care. Okay, friends, that was the video. Hope you liked it. If you found it informative, good, entertaining, I'd love if you could scroll down here beneath the video, Give me a like there. It helps us out with the algorithm. And then if you want to be notified first of anything new that we upload to the channel, if you come over here, click subscribe, you'll be the first to know as soon as we upload anything. Appreciate it. See you soon.